All right, cool.
So how's it going, man?
Shabbat Shalom, brother.
Shabbat Shalom.
I had hit up Natanya earlier to see if she wanted to come on.
Yeah.
I hit up Marie too, just to kind of get some female perspective on here and everything.
Right.
But I was telling Natanya, I was like, man, last Shabbat we had a conversation, and it was a real good conversation, and that's why I was like, yeah, we should have another conversation this Shabbat, but we should record this one because we dropped gems last week.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people needed to hear those, and I was telling her, I was like, man, shoot, this might be a Shabbat thing. I don't know, like this might develop into like just a little Shabbat talk kind of thing, just a discussion, open forum, nothing. Nothing set in stone, nothing planned or scripted. It's just you get on and walk lead you.
Yeah. That'd be great, man. That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. Most I willing. So
Heck yeah.
I can't get a background. I wish I could. If I use my phone, I could probably do it. But then the phone, people be calling and it just stuff. So I don't want to do it on the phone. I only do it on my phone as a last resort. But we in the hotel and all I got is my laptop because all my stuff is being shipped. So we'll deal with it. You can see the ceiling fan in the background. It's not a horrible background. So
it's better than my background would be without this. So.
Your background's moved though. I'm so jealous. I try to find cool pictures to put as my virtual background, but then like having movement back there, that's dope. Like
yeah.
And those came with your Zoom? Like your Zoom comes with those?
Yeah. My Zoom came with that. You can like download new ones or something. But yeah, the Northern Lights and the palm tree with the beach that came with the Zoom.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look into that because I could probably if they let videos get uploaded, maybe I can kind of make my own video and then put that as a background. I don't know. But yeah, so pretty much last week I just hit you up and we were talking like we normally talk because we talk often, and we were talking about different topics, and I'm like, man, I wish more people could have heard those because I think. And there's still that one topic that I cannot remember to say. I know. I'm trying to think. It was so good, and it sat with my spirit for like the whole week. I can't think of it right now.
I know. I don't know why I can't either.
I was hoping to get it so we can bring it back up and talk about it. But what you want to talk about? What you want to start off with? Like we can talk about whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Shoot, I don't know, man. Did you have anything on the agenda?
I have no agenda. I have no agenda here. Look, I did just finish watching a live from a sister who was talking about polygyny.
Yeah.
But like that was it. Like so that was fresh on my mind. But we can talk about whatever. We could talk about polygyny. We could talk about the lunisola. We can talk about different scriptural topics, things that we've experienced, stuff we've been seeing, a lot lately, whether it be in the world, whether it be on social media, in our own lives. Like we could talk about manifestation. Yeah, we definitely got to talk about manifestation.
Yeah.
We definitely got to talk about manifestation.
Oh, you know what? Actually, the topic I had about that involves the moon cycles actually correlates and corresponds with the manifesting and stuff too. So that would be a good like we can segue from that into that if you wanted to.
Okay, let's do that then. Okay, so which topic we gonna start with? Are we gonna start with the lunisolar?
Yeah. Let's start with the moon cycles and stuff.
Okay.
We can start with the moon cycles. Polygyny is that's a topic that I feel it's like it's not necessarily a non-issue, but I feel like there's so many more important things to discuss, instead of that, because I mean, it doesn't really, I don't know, but yeah, we'll talk about the calendar and stuff. That'd be good. So,
cool.
What I just found out last night. Now, part of what we're going to end up getting into with this topic is stuff I've already known, but what I just found out last night is very interesting.
Okay.
So I just found out from a friend of mine that so he says the first 5 or 6 days after the new moon is a time for growth, right? And he said everything in nature has the first 5 or 6 days after new moon, there is like he said that's the best time to plant something. He said if you plant something right after the new moon in those 5 or 6 days, then it will grow big and it'll produce a lot, and it will it'll just grow bigger, right? Like plants, like if you plant a tree, you want to plant it in the first 5 or 6 days after the new moon, because if you plant it later than that, it won't grow quite as good. Which is why the Farmer's Almanac, I never really understood exactly why the Farmer's Almanac has, moon cycles in it, right? But I did know that that planting had something to do with the moon phases, but I didn't know exactly like how and all that kind of stuff. But he says if you plant it after the full moon, it will be a runt. It won't produce hardly anything. It'll grow bad and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, what? And so I kind of did a little looking into that. But yeah, so basically, anything you do in the first 2 weeks of the month, especially if you do it in during the first week of the month, it will grow better. Like if you he said if you want your hair to grow long, like my hair's long, he said if you want your hair to grow longer, you want to trim it during the first week of the month, and it'll grow longer. But if you trim it during the last 2 weeks of the month, especially toward the end of the month, he said it will actually stunt the growth and it'll stop growing. So if you want to keep your hair short, you want to get it cut like toward the end of the month, and then it won't grow as fast. But if you trim it during the beginning of the month, especially the first week, it'll grow faster. He said the same thing with like pruning your plants. Like if you got to prune your fruit trees or prune your grapevines or whatever, you want to prune them during the first week of the month. Not on new moon day, because if you do it on new moon day, it somehow stunts it. And if you do it after the first week, like during the second week, it'll be okay, but it's not going to be optimal. The optimal time to plant and prune plants is the first week of the month, which because see the moon's waxing at that point, it's gaining light and getting bigger, so it's the time for growth, right? Then the last 2 weeks of the month while the moon is waning, then you've got it's a time for like reflection and consolidation and stuff, so that was really interesting to me, and the way that kind of ties in with manifesting stuff.
Hold on one second, because I got a question, and
yeah.
I got the question. Other people that's gonna watch this is gonna have a question too. You mentioned the Farmer's Almanac. What's that?
Yeah. The Farmer's Almanac is a I think they put it out annually. When I first started doing the lunisolar calendar, I used to check the Farmer's Almanac to find out when new moon was going to be, when the full moon was going to be, and then kind of based my calendar on that before I knew how to calculate it from looking at the moon and the distance between the moon and the sun and so forth. Before I knew how to do that, I started off, I used to use the Farmer's Almanac, but it's basically, I think it's an annual publication that they put out, and it basically tells you moon phases, planting seasons, all this kind of stuff for for like when's the best time to plant and harvest and so on and so forth, based on, essentially it's based on the lunisolar calendar, because it all has to do with times of the year based on the solar, and then also times of the month based on the moon. So it tells you, it's got it all laid out for the whole year.
How accurate is it in comparison to the lunisolar, or like, for example, you used to use the Farmer's Almanac before you learn how to calculate the lunar phases for yourself. How accurate was the Farmer's Almanac with, like, say, when you first started doing lunisolar and you were using the World's Last Chance calendar? Like, how close were the two together?
You know, to be completely honest, I haven't compared them since I started using the other. I haven't even compared them, but I would say it's pretty accurate. The only discrepancy would be that the dates, because with the Gregorian calendar, the date changes at midnight, so that would affect. It could, on occasion, affect when the date is that they say on the. So you got to take that into account if you're doing dawn, or even if you're doing evening. Even people that do evening to evening, it would affect that too, because their date would change at a different time than on the Gregorian calendar. So it wouldn't change at midnight; it would change at evening for people that do evening. So
there's still a Gregorian aspect to the Farmer's Almanac.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, my daughter just got home. So yeah, we're doing a little talk for Shabbat. Yeah. Yep, Shabbat today.
Shabbat talk.
So yeah, the Farmer's Almanac would be, it would require just like a minor adjustment, I would think. But to be completely honest, I haven't even compared the two since I started using a different method.
Okay. I continue because I just had that question. I'm not privy to the world of farming and growing just yet. We work in that way, but we ain't there just yet. So
I'm to be completely honest, I'm not either. I've experimented and tried to grow stuff. I'm not really a great farmer yet, but you know. But now that I know when to plant, that might change.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what kind of results you get.
See, he said the best time to transplant also is during the first 5 to 6 days after the new moon is the best time to transplant too.
Okay.
So like if you go and buy some, if you go to Lowe's or Home Depot and you buy the little starter plants, if you wanted to transplant them, the best time to do that is first week of the month.
Okay. While we're still on the topic of like the lunisolar, before rolling over into like the manifestation part of the discussion, last week we talked about keeping up with the actual times, like when to actually observe certain feast days and Shabbat and new moon days, because even within the lunisolar creator calendar keeping community, you got people who are a month ahead, some are a month behind. We all keep the Sabbath and we all keep the different feast days, but just because based on our understandings of when everything falls, some people may, celebrate, worship, observe days sooner or later, right? And I've had some discussions with people, and I've seen some posts about why they observe certain days in the way in which they do, especially the New Year, right? Because we talked about last week. So quickly, could you explain your understanding of how to observe when the New Year begins? And you mentioned a couple different examples last week. You're talking about the different methods, right?
Yeah.
And why it makes sense. Because I know people out there, some people, they don't know what the lunisolar calendar is. And some people who do or even keep it, they may keep it differently than we do.
Yeah. I can go over my understanding of it, and I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna just be like, oh, I'm totally right and everything like that. But just my understanding, the conclusions that I've come to. So As far as I guess establishing new moon is it would be first on that, and then from there you would establish when the new year begins. So new moon, from my understanding, is whenever you have a dark moon, right? So you get the dark moon at the time of conjunction. That would be the dark moon. So the way I do new moon is at the time of conjunction, it would be the next dawn after conjunction would be the new moon day, and then the first crescent, when you see that crescent, would be at the end of the new moon day. So it would be announcing that, hey, new moon's over, now starts your work week. You know what I mean?
Okay. So I was just talking to Marie earlier today, and we briefly discussed, because I asked her, was today her Shabbat? And she told me that tomorrow is her Shabbat. And she explained that they observe new moon
by the
first visible crescent.
And then the next day, yeah.
And so I explained my understanding of it, because I actually did a video on this too. Because when I first started keeping the lunisolar, I basically just based my entire understanding on World's Last Chance, right?
Yeah.
They had a big, very thorough breakdown of what they do and why they do it. I had just finally come after 2 years of research and stuff, trying to find out how to keep the lunisolar. And then I was like, all right, cool. Now that I have that understanding, I was able to build upon that and get more into the scriptures and stuff. So my understanding is this: when you look in the book of Enoch, how it says that the light gains on the moon until it becomes a full moon, and once it becomes a full moon, the light wanes, meaning it goes out of the moon until the end of the month comes into completion, when all light has gone out of the moon.
Yeah.
Well, we know that the end of the month being a empty moon, right, is going to dictate when the month ends. Well, if the month ends, then the next month will begin on the following day. Right? So from my understanding is, say you have an empty moon, the month is at an end. Now we know that light, according to scripture, and you can see this for yourself when you look into the sky. Light is going to now begin to increase upon the moon.
Yeah.
Well, does light only increase it at nighttime when we're observing it, or does it increase throughout, right? And that was my understanding. So when you based it upon an empty moon, actually basing it upon the first crescent, because this is why. So if you look up at nighttime and you see an empty moon, it's a dark moon, there's no light in it. Light is slowly increasing on that moon.
It begins to increase.
You see it, but it's gaining light, right? So you fall asleep, while you're sleeping, it's gaining light. And then next day, there's light in the moon. You just can't see it because it's daytime. You don't visibly see it until the following night, where you look up and see, oh, okay, there's a slight slither of light.
It actually doesn't become visible. Doesn't become visible until it's about 2 or 3%. But at that point, it's already 2 or 3%.
Right.
It begins to gain light as soon as conjunction ends. Like when conjunction happens, that's when it stops. That's when it stops, and then it starts again.
Exactly. It's like my hand, right? So light starts to gain on it. It's a half moon. Gain on it. And then once it becomes fully illuminated, which is a full moon, now get my hand right. Now it's a full moon. Now the light begins to get out of it, and it becomes a half moon again until it gets back to the last sliver, and then it becomes completely empty, right? So if you're looking at it, like you mentioned, you said 2 to 3% illuminated. If you look at it as a game of percentages, right? An empty moon is 0%, a full moon is 100%. Once that percentage hits 100, it now goes back
losing.
Resetting. It's a complete cycle. So if the light is gaining and you're not controlling any of this, right? You're not controlling any of it. As the light is gaining, if you have waited an additional day to wait until you can see the light, you've already kind of missed a certain portion of that light already. So the way I understand it is, then at nighttime, when I look up and I see an empty moon, I know that that's telling me that the following day is going to be new moon, because that first sliver, in accordance with scripture, is happening either while I'm asleep or while I'm awake and I can look into the sky, but I just can't see the moon because it's too bright, because the sun is out. And that is actually when I'm supposed to be keeping new moon day, right? But that's just my personal take. We share the same thing. We just have different looks at it. But but that's just my understanding of the new moon. And new moon is so critical because obviously your new moon day is going to dictate your Sabbaths.
When your Sabbath is,
your feast days, your holy days. It's going to dictate all of that, right? So like you said, first establishing the new moon and then establishing the new year, because once you get your year in alignment, all of your feast days and your seasons are now based off of that.
And other people have other understandings. I'm not trying to say, oh, you're wrong or whatever like that. It's just, everyone understands things differently because everyone comes from a different perspective. But yeah, that's essentially the exact same thing that I was saying. You just put it in a different context. And then the generally every other month you have 2 dark moons, which would make it go up an extra day. The way I generally do it is you can actually calculate it toward the end of the month. You can calculate when the conjunction is going to happen, and then once you know when conjunction is going to happen, because it's a pretty regular cycle. So once you know when conjunction is going to happen, it would just be, depending if you start the day on evening or morning, which I do morning. So dawn after conjunction is when I would do the new moon day, and then that night you'll have a visible crescent.
Is that because of there's 29 days in some months and 30 days in other months?
Yeah, because the lunar cycle is approximately 29 and a half days. So, but you can't have half a day. A day is a day. So, 1 month you'll have 1 dark moon, and another month you'll have 2 dark moons. And then,
Okay, copy that.
Yeah. So I just do it the first dawn after conjunction as new moon day, and that usually ends up with that evening after whatever I've considered new moon day. That evening is when you can visibly see the crescent.
Right.
Which, if you go back to creation, the creation account, interesting to notice, and this also goes into the other thing, but I'm not going to just yet. But going back to creation, it says, Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth.
Right.
And then it was day 1 when he made light. That's the first day of the week that he made light, right? Now, my understanding is if you go through the rest of creation, the only other time it uses the word created is when he makes animals and when he makes man.
Correct.
It says he created animals and man, but everything else it says he made. And it's a completely different Hebrew word. I don't recall off the top of my head what it is, what they are. But one of them means to create something out of nothing. So created, the word created, that's bara. Yeah, I believe it's bara. That word means to make something out of nothing, right? And then the other word for made, that actually, if you look up that definition, that means to basically make something out of something else. So you take materials that are already in existence and you make it into something else. Like if I wanted to make a chair, right? I've got wood, I want to build a chair. So I take the wood that already exists and then I make it into a chair. I don't create the chair, but with that, I make it, right? But then that goes into, in the mind, you actually create the chair in your mind, and then you use the materials to make it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So the idea and the planning on how the measurements and all that kind of stuff, that's creating the chair, but it doesn't actually become a chair until you've made it. So if you look at the creation account, it says in the beginning he created heaven and earth. So everything was created at that point, but it was formless and void, right? Then and you could say that's a new moon day because there was no light. But then he created light, or he made light. It says he made the light. And then the light was on the day one, he made the light. So that would be the first day of the week, but actually the day after new moon. So you've got on new moon is when everything was created, right? It was all created on new moon. And then through the rest of the week, he spent each day through the rest of the week making things out of what he already had created. Now, as far as the animals and man, it says he created animals and man. That's because we're alive. So a life has to be created. It can't be just made, right? So it says he made man, he formed man out of the dust of the earth, but then he breathed into him the breath of life, and he became a living soul, right? So that was the creation of man becoming a living soul is, had to be created, not made. But yeah. So
that makes a lot of sense, and it ties into this was another discussion we've had. Oh, this was probably go back about 8 months or so. Yeah. But we were talking about the lunisolar. I don't know if you remember this conversation, but we were talking about the lunisolar, and somebody had asked me in a more in a debate format because they didn't agree with the lunisolar. Mm-hmm. So they were saying that the sun and the moon was created on the fourth day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so how can we keep the lunisolar when the sun and the moon was created on the fourth day? And we're keeping a certain pattern, right? Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, Shabbat, and then rinse and repeat 4 times. And then you have an additional, sometimes an inner calendar day or a transition day, and then new moon day, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Right. And so we were talking, I had brought it up to you because I thought it was a good point at the time.
Yeah.
And then you elaborated something similar to what you just said, and that's what made me think about it.
Yeah, because the sun and the moon were actually created before day 1.
Right. They were created.
Yeah.
Already. Yeah. But you said that, and when you look at Genesis 1:14, and it says, and they were appointed for signs and for seasons and days and years, it just means that on day 4, they were given their appointment, they were given their job, but they were already created in existence. So the timekeeping was already established.
Yeah.
On 1. Mm-hmm. So you have day 1, then day 2, then day 3, then day 4. But on day 4, the sun and the moon was given their jobs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like setting a clock. If you have a clock, you got to set it to the right time.
Exactly. Because if it was like the individual who was trying to make a point, right? If it was based off of like how they were explaining it, it would have said day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, sun and moon is created, then day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Have it like that. Everything has to be in unison, right? Mm-hmm. There's a significance to the number 7 for a reason.
Yeah.
Right. We know that we see the number 7 over and over throughout the scriptures. It has meaning, it has significance. So if the Most High created everything in the beginning on the first day, then it has to follow that same suit. So the sun and the moon was created when he created the earth, because the heavens, which is also another word that is synonymous with heavens, is firmament, sky up there. The sun and the moon falls into that category as well.
Yeah.
It made me think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, everything was created. Then day one, he started making things. So he made light, then he made the firmament, then he made, so on, and then he made the land and the seas, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know where I was going. Oh, well, if you, oh wait, so I don't know where I was going with that. It just slipped my mind. So.
Sorry, I'm on.
So yeah, it just slipped my mind. But yeah, basically everything was created on what I believe was a new moon day, and then the rest of the week he spent the rest of the week making things out of what he had created.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. And then if you look at that with us, like if you wanted to go on and segue into the manifestation, right?
Okay. That
gives you, New Moon Day is actually a really special day because you can, it's a separate day by itself, right? So it's not a weekday, it's not a Shabbat, it's a separate day on its own. Right. But it's, the tradition of New Year's resolutions, right? New Year's resolutions, people usually, when they make a New Year's resolution on January 1st, they stick to it for maybe a month or two, or 3 or 4 weeks, whatever, 5 weeks, but then they fall off of it, right? They fall off of it because they don't have it. There's no accountability. There's no, taking account of what. There's no taking account of progress that's been made and so forth. There's nothing to renew them and re-energize them to. There's nothing to keep them going.
Right.
But you can generally keep a New Year's resolution for a month, maybe a little bit longer, right? Most people do. Let's say they made a New Year's resolution to go to the gym, right? To go work out and get.
That's one of the most popular.
One of the most popular ones. The most popular New Year's resolution is get your fitness up, right? So they do that for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and then they just fall off, right? Lots of people do. Most people do, actually. It's something like 80% of New Year's resolutions, people are done with them by middle of February, right? But with New Moon Day, if you consider that as a day to create, right? Create with your mind. So on New Moon Day, you spend the day thinking about what you want to accomplish. You spend the day thinking about what you want to accomplish for the month, right?
Okay.
So then you go to work and you do the physical things for 6 days. And then on the Sabbath day, you have a day to reflect on the previous week, right? To reflect on it, see what you've accomplished, where you made mistakes, so on and so forth. Then you can also look forward to the next week as in like, what do I need to do the next week in order to do things better and more righteously, right? So you make kind of a resolution, like let's say someone has a particular sin that they're struggling with, right? So on New Moon Day, they think about how they can make sure that they're not doing that. And then for 6 days, they try to, make progress on it. Then on Shabbat, they look back at the previous week and say, okay, well, I did good here, but I failed here and I failed here, and this is the reason why. They kind of make a mental note, or you could actually write it down. Yeah. And then looking toward the next week, they're like, well, next time this happens, I'm going to do A, B, and C, right? Instead. So then you have 4 weeks, and by the time you've done that for 4 times, you generally should be able to have accomplished the goal that you set on New Moon Day. Then you're ready to set a new goal by the next new moon.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you go through 4 weeks, if you go through 4 weeks with a single focus, right? You figure out the focus that you want to have, whatever you're trying to create, because you know, we were made in the image of God, not that we are, not that we have the power that he has, but not that we are, but, you know, we were given the ability to think and reason and make decisions like that. So on the new moon day, you can think of a goal that you have, a particular goal, and then you spend 6 days working with your hands and doing physical things to try to accomplish that goal. And then the next week, you've got a better idea of how to do it, different steps along the way. Then reflect again next week, go through, you know, and by the end of it, you should have accomplished that goal. Then, or if it's a long-term goal, then you can say, well, I've got A, B, and C checked off. This month, I'm going to focus on this, you know, and you know, it works great for short-term and long-term goals. And it gives you a whole day to think about it and, you know, generate the ideas and the necessary steps to be taken. You know what I mean?
So you would essentially take New Moon Day to, you know, begin the planning process, come up with an idea, whatever the ultimate goal of it is, whether it be accomplish a specific goal, get rid of a specific sin, you know, tailor your life in a specific way.
Yeah.
And you spend the week to, you know, try different things to accomplish said goal. And the Shabbat is a day of reflection.
Yeah, where you don't actually have to do anything. You just reflect on it. You know?
Right, because it's a day of rest. Right, it's a day of rest. And then you take the following week to implement the adjustments that you've already identified on Shabbat.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you take the week to try the different game plan, which will roll into the next Shabbat, which you reflect upon that secondary week, tailor, tweak a few things, rinse and repeat for third Shabbat and fourth Shabbat, which will end the month. And then New Moon Day, you should have accomplished your previous goal. And if it was not accomplished, then you just rinse and repeat and start over again.
Yeah. But then that gives you another day to think about it. So you're not having to go a whole year in between resolutions or goal setting, right?
Okay.
And, you know, as people do, because you know, most like I said before, most New Year's resolutions, people are through with them by not through as in accomplished it, but they're through trying by the first or second week of February, you know. But like for long-term goals, it would be basically the same process. Long-term goals, you just reaffirm what it is you want to do, how you're going to do it, what steps along the way you need to make, and then move on from there. But it gives you a day to get yourself thinking about it, and, you know, getting your gears turning. Just like I said before, with if I wanted to make a chair, right? I got the wood. You create it in your mind. So you get all the measurements, you do all the planning, you write out the schematic, what different pieces you need, all of that. Then you spend 6 days working on it physically, right? So you've actually created the chair in your mind. And same way with the goal you're trying to accomplish, you create it in your mind, and then you do the physical work for 6 days to accomplish it. Then you have a day to reflect, you know, and
so scrap New Year's resolutions. That's pagan anyway.
Yeah.
By the way, for those who didn't know, was it the false guy? Was it Janus?
Janus, yeah. Janus, I think it was actually pronounced, but yeah.
It was a false deity that they worship. Was it Rome or Babylon?
Rome.
Because it was the coin with the two faces, right? It was two faces that was facing out. Yeah. So that's for those of you guys who didn't know, New Year's Day, New Year's resolutions, all of those things, they're pagan in nature and origin.
However, which is why they don't work. Which is why they generally don't work, because they're not founded on the truth. You know, anything that's founded on the truth, it's going to have, you know, depending on what you do to work it out, anything that's founded on the truth is going to have a much higher success rate than something that's founded on a lie to begin with, you know.
Facts. So we getting rid of New Year's resolutions, and we finna start breaking out these new moon resolutions.
New moon resolutions.
No
Yeah.
more resolutions. No, but look, no, that's interesting. That's interesting because I got some goals.
But then it's also a way. It's also a way that we can imitate God, because we're supposed to be imitators of the Most High. We're supposed to live the way He wants us to, and that's a way that we can imitate Him, because He created everything on the new moon day, i.e., thought about right, creating it in your mind, right, and then spent 6 days working on it, and then rested on the Shabbat, saying, "Oh, look what I've made."
I think I'm gonna implement that because I got a goal, and I'm gonna look. When new moon day?
Right.
So I'm gonna try that. But you said it's dealing with manifestation. So go ahead and completely.
Well, that's how, because you spend the new moon day, thinking and contemplating, and that's getting your vibrational frequencies going. Because I don't know how deep we want to go with this, because it can get pretty deep, but everything being the vibrational frequencies and stuff, which is essentially what Scripture says, that everything's vibrational frequencies. So whenever you have a thought, you're really focused on something, you start vibrating and projecting these frequencies, the frequencies of what you're thinking of, what you're wanting to do, and all that kind of stuff. And it seems to be that the frequencies are amplified. The frequencies are amplified naturally on new moon and Sabbaths, because everything works by moon cycles. Everything, the plants, growing your hair, etc., all happens through moon cycles.
And it's amazing how in this westernized modern society, almost zero credit is given to the moon. Everything is heliocentric. Everything revolves around the sun. Everything is in relation to the sun. The sun is, this massive, amazing focal point, and then the moon is like, you're the Robin. Sun is Batman. The moon is Robin. But when you look at it from the biblical Easternized perspective, in the way that the Most High created everything and using them, both the sun and the moon, they both have their various roles, right? But if you look at what the sun is responsible for, as opposed to what the moon is responsible for, it's actually the opposite, right? The sun dictates when the day begins. And the solar year has to align to the lunar year, which is why, which is where you get your 13th month at, right? But if the growth, like you said, the growth is based upon the moon, the beginning of the month is based upon the moon, which then dictates when your Sabbaths begin, which is based upon the moon. If the new year is on a new moon day, then the new year is also based upon the moon in a manner of speaking, which dictates when your holy days and your feast days are.
Well, actually, that's great to get back to that too, as to when to begin the year, right? So when does Aviv actually start? Because we had earlier, you had said that, and then I went into the new moon, and then we got off into this. But going back to that, now that we've established, when I do the new moon. So as far as the year beginning, the understanding I have is that the new moon closest to the spring equinox is the first day of the first month. So, there's people that do the new moon after the equinox. And then there's people that do it solely based on barley growing and stuff. Like the Orthodox Jews, they'll go out and measure the barley stalks up to it, and then if it's ready to harvest, and they say, "Oh yeah, now it's been confirmed. It's the first month of the year." But if you do it with the new moon closest to the spring equinox, then the barley would be ready to harvest at the appropriate time.
Now tell everybody why you said solely basing the new year upon when you measure the barley can be incorrect in certain instances, though.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you could have droughts, you could have heat waves, you could have floods, you could have fires, you could have insects eating your barley, and then you wouldn't know. Also, on Sabbath years and Jubilees, you wouldn't have planted it. So how are you going to determine it then? You know?
Telling you, look, these Shabbat talks will be dropping so many gems.
Yeah.
I'm getting gems from this conversation because, we discussed some things last week, but the whole thing about the moon, and these things you're saying, I'm picking these gems up just like everybody who's gonna be watching this on the playback, right? I'm picking up the same gems as y'all people. Family, listen, understand, this is not scripted. I woke up late. I slept in. I woke up late. It was like 12:15 when I got up. I called this man at like 12:20 something and just was like, hey, you want to talk? Let's have a Shabbat talk. And we just set it up, we'll get back on in a couple hours, and we just had a discussion. So it's like literally I rolled about the bed and this is what happened. So our friends knows how we made it, but none of this is literally like I'm on my laptop right now, right? So you ain't got no notes, you ain't got no type of, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got none of that. I got books that I've been reading. These are the only 2 books I brought with me because all my other stuff is, in my household goods that's being shipped. But ain't no navigation here. We just flowing. We letting the Ruach take control.
Yeah. I love it, man. I mean, it's not bad to have notes and have it, kind of generally outlined and stuff. But right. It's great to just talk, just to talk and share, understandings and how even when we have opposing views, and I might even say, especially when we have opposing views, it's good to talk because, even if we don't end up ultimately believing the same thing, it still gives us something to think about. It challenges us to re-examine things because Proverbs says, "He who answers a matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame unto him." And I don't want to have folly and shame unto me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because whether or not you necessarily agree with the topic that's being discussed, at least hearing them, you know what I'm saying, hearing them out. Now take that information that's shared with you from them and go and fact check it. Look at the scriptures, look into the evidence, research it. You know what I'm saying? And then you can then make the determination whether you're going to continue to disagree or is it something that actually has some validity to it. You know what I mean? And especially if you're live and you're discussing with that person who has the opposing view, now you can have that open dialogue. You know what I mean? Like me and you, we agree on a lot, but we don't agree on everything, right?
Yeah, no.
And even to this day, there's still topics of discussion that we don't necessarily agree 100% with. And that's completely fine.
Yeah, well, because everyone has a different perspective. Everyone's no 2 people can possibly have the same perspective. There's just no way. Everyone is always going to disagree about certain things, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's everyone has to make their own determinations, think about it in their own head, go to scripture and put it through scripture, which is ultimately the most important thing is putting it to scripture, because we know that scripture is truth, and anything I learn or read, it doesn't matter what the source is to me. What I do is when I read or learn or hear about something, I will put it to scripture and filter it through scripture, There's truth in everything, but what Scripture does is Scripture is going to sift away all of the lies and falsehoods, and then you get the truth, you know?
So that kind of brings me to a question, right?
Yeah.
With that said, do you have, because I want to ask how did you find your way into the truth?
Mm-hmm.
But I think this second question could maybe potentially answer the first question in the format, just for the time's sake.
Yeah.
Do you have a scripture that you actually live by? Like that scripture kind of governs and guides the way you conduct yourself on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'd say there's two. One of them I already said, Proverbs 18:13, I believe it is, and I should know it off. You know, I can quote the actual verse.
I got you.
I think it's 18:13.
Hey, look, I stay strapped.
right. I had to shut my phone off because I kept getting calls and stuff.
I normally will pull it up on my phone real quick, but since I got the book in front of me, I'm gonna make this a little bit more organic.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 18:13. You know what?
Yeah.
Let me see. Anyways, it's he who answers a matter before he hears it is folly and shame unto him. That's one scripture that I live by, and the other would be
18 and 13.
I think it's 18:13. Proverbs 18:13.
Yep. He that answereth a matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him. Well, you was verbatim.
Yeah.
You was verbatim, word for word. What's the other one?
That's actually been one of my favorite scriptures for a long time. Like when you know what kind of, I wouldn't say it actually brought me back into trying to live by the truth, because you know I spent after I grew up and I had, you know, growing up in church, I kept coming across inconsistencies in doctrines and so forth. So I had kind of I wouldn't say I turned my back on God and said, oh, there's no God, I'm an atheist now. But I kind of, for a period, became an agnostic because I had been fed all these false doctrines. And I was like, well, how can we know the truth? And for whatever reason, back then in my youth, you know, when I was kind of foolish, it didn't occur to me to just read the Bible on my own. And I was just like, oh, well, we can't know the truth. Well, I guess also I got the idea, oh, well, it's been translated so many times. How do you know?
That was me. That was exactly me. I'm like, how can I was like, I believe in God. I believe that there's a higher power, but I don't believe in the Bible. And how can I, when it's been rewritten over and over and over again by man, and we know that men are evil and wicked.
Yeah.
So I trust the words that are in this Bible in modern day. You know, this was probably like 2006 when I was saying this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, modern day 2006, when, you know, it goes back thousands of years and all of this rewriting. I was like, how can I trust it?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely was there at one point for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was too. I was at a point where I felt like I couldn't know, and how could I trust it? But I still believed it. I still believed. But I just kind of just went, well, I can't really know, so I'm just going to live however I feel like. And so I did that for several years, you know. You know, just
Yeah, it's funny how far you've come, because anybody who knows me knows that my first stop is going straight to the scriptures.
Yeah.
So to even hear myself say that I used to say that I didn't agree with the Bible, I didn't trust it, believe in it. Like, it's funny hearing myself say that right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what was the second verse?
I'm trying to find it right now, actually. I'm trying to find it right now. Hold on.
What did it say along the lines? I can ask.
Well, it's the verse where Messiah says, that and I should be able to quote it off the top of my head. I don't know.
No worries. You can paraphrase.
Well, basically where he says, take no thought of what you're going to eat, what you're going to drink,
Yeah, I got you.
Matthew, I want to say it's like Matthew 5 or 7 or something.
Matthew
like that.
6, 25 through 33.
Yep.
See, I asked my cousin Google, they know everything. all I typed in was literally take no thought of what you will eat, and then it popped up.
Yeah. So, basically like seek first the kingdom of God, and his righteousness. I guess that's actually a more important, like it's really just like a concise as far as going into take no thought of all that, because it really it's part of the same message anyway. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you. That's really it. That's my primary focus, is to seek the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then secondarily, I don't answer the matter until I've heard it.
And that makes so much sense, only because I know you, right?
Yeah.
I know you. It makes so much more sense now that I know you, your personality, how you conduct yourself, and then to see that those are the two scriptures that are governing and guiding you. It makes so much sense. Because I'm not going to put your personal business out there, but you have dealt with a lot, right? And some of those things, a normal person looks at it like, how can I get out of this? What can I do? And then they start to spiral in the stress, and you know what I'm saying, they freak out, they lose themselves, and they wallow within their struggles, within their situation, within their sin, whatever the case may be. But you always, not only do you not stress and panic when you find yourself in adversity, but you always have this positive outlook on life.
Well,
and
because I'm in his kingdom,
I love it, but I'll be like, man, this dude is just too happy sometimes,
Dude.
I don't think I've ever seen you. I've seen you get like irritated, but I've never seen you like mad, ever.
Well, I mean, I have been mad,
I know, I'm sure you have, but I'm saying, like, from my experience with dealing with you and speaking with you and stuff like that, I haven't seen it. But I want to read the scripture that you I want to read it verbatim for the
yeah, read that. And what was it again? Matthew 6
and 25. It says, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, or what ye shall drink, nor yet for your body, what ye shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? And, the Google said to go all the way to 30, I think it said.
I would say, I'd say just read to the end of the chapter.
Okay. Verse 27, 26. Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feedeth them. Are ye not much better than they? Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And why take ye thought for raiment? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his esteem was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if Ahiah so clothe the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knoweth that ye have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Take therefore no thought for the morrow, for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof.
Yeah, yeah, that's great, man. You know, and see the Gentiles, you know, they don't have even people with false gods that they actually believe in and so forth. They don't have the assurance from their false gods that they're going to be taken care of. You know, their false gods are not like their false gods are not like their father. They're more like someone that just, you know, what and then the atheists too. It's not like having a father. The atheists don't even, you know, they believe they have to make sure they have that. That's why there's so much consumerism in the world today, because everyone's like, oh, I gotta accumulate stuff, you know. And what Messiah is saying right there is, you know, don't be worried about that. Seek first the kingdom, and then all these things will be added to you anyway.
Yeah.
You know? But and you know, that actually goes into, in a way, that goes into the manifestations stuff, because yeah, you can think about something, you can have a goal that you want to set, right? But you know, you can even go about physically accomplishing it. You can spend all 7 days a week working for it, trying to make it happen, and you could make it happen, you know. But but if you seek first the kingdom of God, you seek first his righteousness, then it's just going to come to you without you even having to do anything. I mean, maybe a little bit here and there, but as long as your primary focus is to please the Most High, then he's going to give you the desires of your heart, as long as they're righteous, you know.
I give you an example, and I'll use myself as an example, right? I started making music in 2015. I dabbled in music a little bit before that, but I didn't really start officially making music in 2015. But back then, I had a worldly perspective, worldly mindset, and I wanted to accomplish certain goals. You know, I wanted to find a wife. I wanted to have kids. I wanted to do all of these things, right? I wanted my music to get bigger. I wanted to be able to be financially sufficient and all of these different things, right?
Yeah.
When you make the focus those things, you miss out on so much, right? And then it wasn't until when I started to focus and change my focus from the things that I wanted or the things that I was trying to accomplish, and I changed my focus from that and having the Most High second, and I shifted my focus to putting him first, then the things started to fall into play, right? The wife, the children, the you know, the success, the financial stability, the just total satisfaction in living in life, right? And now I take myself today and I look back and I'm like, yo, wow, like the Most High is good, because, you know, all of this stuff that I've accumulated and acquired, it was only because I didn't make it my focus. I made him my focus, and in turn, by making him my focus, he, you know, gave me these things, or he gave me the means to obtain these things without having to make them my false god, my false deity. You got some people that are so obsessed with a specific goal, and you know, with the conversations we've had and me learning about manifestation and stuff like that, you do have to, you know, place focus on things.
Yeah.
Not so much to the point where it becomes idolatry, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They literally, oh my goodness, this new car that I want, like it becomes their idol. Or this a certain lifestyle. Think about how many people right now are living in poverty willingly, because they are trying to uphold a certain image of a luxurious lifestyle that they themselves cannot sustain.
Yep.
It's not within their budget. It's not within their means, but yet they're living in debt, living in poverty, check to check, or just debt. You probably can't even cover all your bills each month.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I paid my light bill this month. Okay, we're gonna skip the light bill next month because I got to pay the water bill.
Yeah.
Oh, then because you robbing Peter to pay Paul. All
Yeah.
of these things because they're trying to they're trying to uphold this lifestyle that isn't even meant for them. Now,
Yeah.
if they focus on the Most High and make Him their focus. All of the things that He has for them and has in store for them, He'll give to them.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can't be worried about, you know, he says not to worry about those things, you know, take no thought, right? And it's not that you don't know you need them, right? It's that you're not worried about them. You're not worried about how it's going to happen. You know, you're not worried about, oh, I've got to make this happen this way or that way or whatever. It's more like, you know, I'm just going to do my part and He's going to do His part, and I'm going to trust Him to do His part, right? He's going to do what He promised, and I'm going to do what He wants me to do, and then He can give you all that stuff. But then again, it's like with Job, man. When Job lost everything, he ended up getting more back than he had before, because he didn't blame God. He didn't say, "Oh man, how could He do this to me?" You know, it was, you know, because things, you know, possessions, they don't really matter. If what how can I put this? You know, you can choose to be happy whether you have things or whether you don't. You could be living $1 million lifestyle and be miserable. You could be broke and just barely able to pay for a studio apartment, and you could be happy, you know, because it's all in your mind. All in your mind. What you know, whether you're happy or not, you can choose to be happy. You can choose to be grateful, and gratitude is extremely important. Extremely important. You know, if you're grateful for something, then you're vibrating on a frequency of being grateful, and then more things are going to happen that you're going to be grateful for. Which is also, you know, that, yeah, this you know, as far as like manifesting and stuff, I want to just get it out there. Yeah, pagans do that too, and they you know, they've got all these teachings and stuff, and all these yogis and stuff that, oh yeah, you can do. And the thing is, if someone's right about something, they're right. I mean, you're not going to be just because they're a pagan doesn't mean they're wrong about everything, right? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If a prostitute says 2 + 2 = 4, you're not going to be like, oh, you're wrong because you're a prostitute. No, you know. But what you have to do, the important thing is, because getting onto this, it can definitely, and I urge anyone that is, you know, studying law of attraction or any kind of The Secret or whatever, any of those documentaries and books and stuff, if you are looking into that kind of stuff, you want to make sure you filter it through Scripture. A lot of it's right. You know, a lie is most convincingly hidden between two truths, and you know, a lot of it is right, but there is that poison mixed in with it. You know, just like rat poison is mostly good food. It's 90% good food and 10% or whatever, 98% good food and 2% poison, right? Because if it was just an obvious lie, then no one would believe it. So it's got to be mixed with the truth. And what has happened with this New Age stuff is they've taken biblical principles. I mean, these are just principles of how the universe was made and how it works, right? Which are in the Bible. And they've twisted it, and mixed it up, and then they've mixed it in with atheism, and then these various other cultures in the world, because, you know, we all come from Adam and Eve and Noah and then the Tower of Babel, right? So every culture in the world On that note, a really great book to read is Two Babylons by Alexander Hislop. Very good. It shows how basically every religion, every culture on earth comes from Adam and Eve, and then Noah and Tower of Babel. It basically shows that how all of these that's a side note. Anyways, they left the Tower of Babel, and they had, the closer to the source material you are, the more accurate you're going to be. The further away you get from it, the more errors are going to creep in, right? And so I would actually go in and say, and lots of people would be like, oh, you shouldn't believe that. But I would actually go in and say a lot of paganism is, especially after reading that book, Alexander Hislop, Two Babylons, mostly deals with the Catholic Church, but it does go into the history of pretty much every religion and every culture on earth, right? But he shows how these cultures had taken the same idea, and then they all generated their own mythologies about it. They all embellished on it. So you've got recurring themes throughout the whole world, in India, in Greece, in Rome, you got throughout the whole world, you've got these recurring themes. And so basically what's happened is we've all gotten away from the source material, i.e. the scripture, which is truth, right? We've all gotten away from the truth, and we all have, depending on your culture, it might be different errors in different ways, but we all have errors mixed in with truth, right? The main basis of it is it's based on the truth loosely in most cases, but it's gotten mixed up and confused. So anyone that's looking into this new age kind of stuff, definitely filter it all through scripture. Look at, don't answer a matter before you've heard it, because that's folly and shame unto you. But you also, once you've heard it, you want to filter it through scripture and make sure that it's true, because they can get into all this stuff like, oh, you're actually a god yourself, and all this kind of stuff, and then it turns into self-worship, which is really what comes into, like, it can take you off on the wrong way, on the wrong path if you're not careful. You've got to make sure you filter it all through scripture. But most of it is true. I'll go on and say that too. Most of it's true, and you don't want to misuse it or whatever, because that's essentially what Satan has done is he's hidden the actual principles from the Bible away from people, right? So they don't actually know how all this works. But he uses, because Satan can't actually create. He can't create. He wasn't created in the image of God, So what he has to do is he has to manipulate us into doing what he wants. You know what I'm saying? So he manipulates people into thinking a certain way and feeling a certain way and believing a certain way and accomplishing the goal that he has set, because he can't actually accomplish it on his own. You feel me? If that makes sense. I hope that wasn't just a whole bunch of prattle, I don't know.
Yeah, basically, like you said, a lot of these documentaries and law of attraction and law of the universe and universal laws and all of these different things, a lot of them, like you said, are based upon truth, but they have been mixed over the years and over the different wicked agendas and doctrines and stuff of men to throw you off. So when you're dealing with those, just be really, really careful, because the fact of the matter is, spiritual law is actually scriptural.
Yeah.
Right? And the Most High established, and he created and established spiritual law. And by doing certain things or thinking a certain way or speaking certain things into existence, we activate spiritual law to work for us or against us. It's up to you to decide how to navigate through your life, to decide how spiritual law is going to work, either for you or against you.
Yeah. And what's happened is, happened with that is the enemy has, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just had to interject here. What's happened is the enemy has, by programming us a certain way, he's convinced us a certain way and caused us to pretty much have it working against us, instead of working for us.
Oh, at all times. At all times. Listen, I'm not trying to be like, sometimes you get into these doctrines and they say, oh, you're God, or if you're a woman, you're a goddess, and different things like that. But let me tell you, according to the scriptures, and you can find these scriptures for yourself, we are, me, you, your brother, your sister, we were created in the image of the Most High. He breathed into Adam, which is our forefather, right? He breathed into him the breath of life, which is the Ruach, which is the Holy Spirit, his spirit. He breathed into him. So we literally have a piece of the Most High in us. So if we were made in the image of him, we have a piece of him, and we have certain capabilities that he's given us, then we are considered Elohim. Scripture says that we are Elohim, we are gods. Now, that's not to mean that we need to be worshipped. That's not to mean that we are greater or more important than the next guy or the next person, whatever the case may be. But once you understand where you are and what your place is, then you can begin to understand why certain things with prayer, fasting, supplication, and speaking those things into existence, whether it be casting out demons, whether it be healing the sick and stuff like that, why those things are, and why and how those things are possible, because we're given the spirit of the Most High, right? Yeah. That's why spiritual law can be activated and tapped into on a daily basis, but most of us do it the negative way and the opposite way of spiritual law, and we keep ourselves in bondage to these negative situations. One second. Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's basically, whatever you're saying, whatever you're believing, whatever you're thinking, because you can say something without believing it, right? But whatever you believe and whatever you say, that's essentially what's going to happen for you.
Exactly.
That's what Messiah said, and the way it was, going back to the creation, because we had talked about that earlier, going back to creation, when the Most High was done creating Adam, right? He gave man the authority over the earth. He says all of the, have authority, have dominion over the earth and subdue it, right? So essentially what happened was he created this world, right? He created the world, and then he says, I'm going to make someone like myself to rule over it, to be the gods of this world. Yep. He's still going to be the God, right? But he made us to be the gods of the world. And he made Adam to be. And then Adam forfeited that by listening to the serpent and doing what the serpent said. Adam forfeited that. So then, as it says in, I believe it's Timothy or Thessalonians, it says, whom the God of this world has blinded the eyes so they wouldn't believe, and so Satan is really the God of this world. When Satan took Messiah up to the mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the earth, said, I will give these to you if you bow down and worship me, right? Messiah didn't say, oh, well, you can't give them to me. He because they were in Satan's hand. Satan has authority over them, and he could have given it. It wasn't like a bluff or something. He actually could have, and Messiah didn't challenge his ability to give those to him, right? But what Messiah did was he responded with scripture, and he spoke the scripture, and that's what we need to be doing in every situation of our life, whenever we feel and we see and we're experiencing lack, we shouldn't be focused on the lack of something, right? We should be we should be focusing on, well, what can I do for the kingdom? Yep. Right? What can I do for the kingdom? Whenever something seems to go wrong, you should actually be happy. Because Messiah even says, you know, when these things happen, you need to rejoice, you know?
Yep.
So, you know, by being happy, by maintaining the joy and the peace that passes all understanding, then we don't have to worry about what happens in this physical world, because it really doesn't matter. What happens here is just it's just like a drop in the ocean of eternity, you know?
Oh yeah.
And so, you know, the physical stuff, you know, it really doesn't, I mean, it doesn't really do anything in the long run. But we also do want to have that, right? Because we have to have our needs met. And, you know, you also don't want to, you know, I won't say always, because situations are always different, right? But if someone's broke, always complaining about their situation, always saying, oh, I'm so, I've got terrible health and I don't have any money and all this kind of stuff. Someone's like that, and then they try to tell you about the gospel. They try to tell you about Messiah and what God can do for you. Most people are gonna be like, you're broke and sick and all that. Why would I want to follow that guy? You know?
Makes sense.
And it's just like I believe it's Corinthians where Paul says, you know, you have to, you know, if you tell someone, if someone's sick and needy, or right, they don't have food, and you say, oh well, just go and be blessed, but you don't give them what they need, then I forget exactly how
James
oh, that is, yeah, that is
James 14 through 26.
Mm-hmm. So you want to always try to meet people's physical needs and appeal to their physical desires as well. You know what I'm saying? Not that should be the focus, because it's not supposed to be the primary focus. But you know, if you do, I mean, Solomon and David, they were super wealthy. Actually, it can actually be argued that Messiah was extremely wealthy too. You know, we get the idea that Messiah was not wealthy, but he was hanging out with a lot of rich people. And being a carpenter back then, that would be like one of the top paid occupations you could have. You know what I'm saying? So most of his life, he was actually grew up pretty wealthy, I would imagine. And he was always hanging out with wealthy people. Not always, like he did go to poor people too, you know. And that's what surprised a lot of people was, you know, that he would go to all these different types of people, you know, because he wasn't here to try to get the wealthy. He wasn't here to try to get the poor. He wasn't here trying to get sick. He was trying to give the message to everyone. It can be argued that he was pretty wealthy up until he began his ministry, and even then, because I mean, you know, Judas had the money bag, and they apparently had money. You know what I'm saying? And it says that he became poor so that we could be wealthy. You know, scripture says that. Now, I mean, it can be argued when he became poor. Did he become poor whenever he took on a human form? Did that make him poor? Well, yeah, you would say that did. But you could also say, you know, growing up as a carpenter's son, that would have been a pretty high-paid occupation back then. Right. You know,
a very lucrative career.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I don't think that he was, you know, he wasn't like broke all the time. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't always. I don't recall him ever begging people for money. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you're not going to, if you're you know, if you're asking someone for money all the time, you're not going to be able to. They're not going to want to hear the gospel from you if every week or every month you're coming to them saying, "Hey, can I get $50?" You know, and you know, it's not, it's like, I mean, if someone has a need, I don't mind giving it to them. But if they're coming to me regularly every week or every month asking for money, I'm gonna be like, well, look, I mean, why don't you know? I mean, and I don't mind. I mean, if someone comes to me like that and they genuinely need it because of this or that or whatever, but if it's just like a constant thing, no one's going to want to hear the gospel from that person, you know?
Right.
Because they're going to be like, you're always broke. Why would I want to hear that? How are you going to tell me about what God's going to do for me when you can't even pay your light bill, you know?
So in relation to what you're saying, especially when you talk about the person who's like sick, conflicted, and then they're preaching a gospel, right? Another thing to keep in mind, family, is spiritual law. Like I said earlier, it can either work for you or against you. And since a lot of us aren't made aware of spiritual law, we activate spiritual law on the negative side that's working against us for majority of our lives. We don't realize the things that we say and the mentality and the mindset that we have and how they work together against us, right? Give you an example. I'll use myself as an example, right? So my father, he had me at an older age. He was in his like late 40s. He had me. Then he had my little brother in his late 50s. He was an old man as I was growing up. So I always seen him like when I was younger, he was active. He was moving around and different things like that, playing ball with me and stuff like that. But that was a small window. Okay. By the time my little brother was born, he might come out and watch us, but he wasn't really out there, getting out there with us. So we seen him as this old man, right? And he would say, "Oh yeah, I got a bad knee, I got a bad hip, I got bad ankles." And me and my brothers took that as to saying like he had it, we would then get it, right? Because my older brother, he had my older brother when he was in his like 20s or 30s, right? So he got that long period of playing with him and growing up with him. But even my older brother would say, "Oh man, I got a bad elbow, I got a bad knee, I got a bad ankle," and I inherited from my dad. And he would tell us we inherited from our dad. So all of us was going through our whole lives saying that we had bad knees, bad joints, bad ankles, and all of these different things, right? But now that I'm made aware of spiritual law and how it works, I've been verbalizing my whole life about how I have bad knees and joints. And guess what? My knees are constantly in pain. You know what I'm saying? They creakily, like I don't know if you can hear, but I can extend my knee right now. Hold on, let me get the camera. I can extend my knee right now. You're probably gonna hear a pop. You heard that?
Oh my goodness.
And this is normal for me, right? This is normal for me. My elbow.
Because that's what you expected. That's what you believed was going to happen.
I expected it, I believed it, and I spoke it. All three things that activate spiritual law against me. So now that I'm 31, I'm now having to rewire my brain, rethink my brain, and start to speak against all of that. So now I'm not saying that I got bad joints. I'm saying I got good joints. Now I'm not saying that I got pain in my knee or I'm going to have pain in my knee. Now I'm speaking against that. I'm speaking life into this body. You feel me?
Yeah.
If you go around and you saying that, think about how many old people, or not even old people, just think about how people say, "Oh, they sneeze. Oh, I'm sick." You might not be sick. You might have allergies. You might have just had a random strand of dust that go into the nose the wrong way and you sneezed it out. But initially, you speaking and believing that you just sick. Sick, and you catch the cold or whatever the case may be. You got what they call them, hypochondriacs. Every little bitty thing that happens to them, they just in their mind think the worst, and they give themselves a diagnosis. Those are very nasty and negative and toxic mindsets to have, and y'all not realizing that you are activating spiritual law. Spiritual law can be activated for your benefit, or it can be to your detriment. It's up to you.
Well, because that's what Messiah says. He says, whatever you're asking, and a lot of I'll tell you, just by changing the way you pray, you can still be praying about the same thing, and just by changing the way that you pray about it, it can make make a huge difference. I've seen it in my personal life. And you know, what's happening is the devil wants you to believe what he's trying to say. He wants you to believe his report. He puts these things in your mind to try to get you to think this stuff and believe this stuff and accomplish this stuff. It's like and then you know, like stress causes a lot of and then you got placebo effects, right? You know, placebos actually work really well. Whenever they do a test on a new pharmaceutical, they have a control group that's taking a placebo, and they actually, it doesn't get approved unless the rate of success with the actual drug is higher than the rate of the placebo. But in most cases, a majority of the people taking the placebo also have really good results from it.
Because so, they don't tell the individuals whether they're getting the real thing or the placebo. So
yeah, because they don't know.
At like your wit's end, right? You say you catch cancer, right? Say it's cancer. Say it's cancer, and you get added to a trial, right? A drug trial for this new cancer drug, and you feel like this is it. It's either this drug trial is gonna work or I'm gonna die. And you put your faith in that drug trial, they give you the placebo. You think that they're giving you the real thing. So just your sheer belief helps you.
Yeah.
With your stuff.
I'll tell you this. I had read this in a book, actually. And this is all documented. This doctor had a patient that had cancer, right? He had a tumor, right? I forget where it was, or but he had a tumor, right? And it was cancerous. So there was this new drug that was on the market. It was still in the experimental phase, but he was able to get some, and he asked the guy if he wanted to take it, and he said, yeah, I'll take it. So he gave it to him, and his tumor started to shrink and it went away. Well, they later found out that after the trials were finished, they found out that drug really had no effect on cancer. The doctor was like, well, it worked with this guy. Well, he didn't tell the guy that it didn't work, but the guy went looking on the internet, found out the name of that, or searched the name of that drug, and found out that the trials showed that it had no effects. His tumor came back, right?
Oh, wow.
Now, the doctor was like, well, how could it have worked? But as soon as he found out that the trial showed it didn't work, then it came back. So the doctor, he actually got a placebo, a sugar pill, and he told him that it was a new form of that drug. And he said, look, take this. It's a new form. The initial trials are promising. Take this. So the guy started taking it again, or taking this. And this time it wasn't even the drug. It was actually just a placebo.
Right.
His tumor went away. Cancer went away. The guy was good for months. Then he went and looked into it more online, found out, that all the trials showed that it had absolutely no effect, whatever. His tumor came right back. And the doctor tried to get him on another one. He at that point, he had lost all hope, and he ended up dying. But it went away both times when he thought the drug was working, or when he was given the placebo and thought the placebo was going to work, it went away. And then it came back whenever it didn't, or whenever he realized that there wasn't any. But see, that really goes to show that most of them are not caused by physical things. Now, a lot of them can have to do with toxicity and eating the wrong kind of food. I mean, if you're eating a bunch of junk food, then yeah, you're going to get sick. I mean, that's just how it is. If you're eating stuff that contains poison, then yeah, it's going to poison your body. You get all this high fructose corn syrup, GMOs, and all that, which the GMOs are actually designed intentionally to affect your DNA, so that you're vibrating on a low frequency and you can't actually accomplish good things when you want to. It has a lot to do with that. It's all, which again is part of Satan's plan to get us to accomplish what he wants. by feeding people poison and getting them to where, they're not able to adequately cause the stuff they want, and then it causes them to be depressed. And when someone's depressed, they're not looking toward brighter days. You know what I'm saying? And when people are depressed, they're not saying, "Oh, I'm going to go work for the kingdom, seek the kingdom." You know what I'm saying? They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, "Oh, I'm so depressed," or "I feel sick," or whatever the case is. And it's a huge topic to discuss.
The mindset is very important. And this is a problem for us, right? Us as people. And this is it's a fault of man. We are not willing to do something if we don't feel as though it's going to benefit us in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And this goes to the maximum level, right? So we've talked about it. If the people watching this video have seen my stance, seen my posts, or watched any of my presentations on predestination, on free will, or anything like that, you understand that I don't believe that we have free will. Now, with that being said, once I share that with someone, right? Once I share that with someone that we do not actually have free will, and they get down to the foundation of it, and then you see them behave in a certain way, they start to question evangelizing altogether. They say, well, if I can't control where I go when I die based on, whether adhering to the Most High and his instruction or going against the Most High and his instruction, if that has no bearing or any weight on my eternal destination, whether it be heaven or hell, past the firmament or down in Sheol, or whatever your beliefs are, right? If I can't control that, if I don't have any effect on it, what is then the point of evangelizing? Meaning, for some people, going and preaching the gospel, going and speaking about the goodness of the Most High, talking about the Torah, showing people how to live in accordance with the Torah, believing on the Messiah, all of these different things that we're instructed to do in the scriptures. They question that when they find out that they don't have control. Nothing that they can do can get them in the Most High's good graces in order to be given salvation or to be lumped into the burning fire, right? When they hear that and they understand that, they begin to question, what's the point of doing any of it? And it's simple. It's simple because he told us to. He commanded us to. In the Old Testament, he said what? Keep my commandments, right? And the New Testament, he said what? Keep my commandments, and also go and spread this gospel to all nations. So regardless of whether we're going to land on the left or to the right, we were given specific and strict instructions to do so. Now, all of a sudden that we find out that what we're doing has no bearing on where we go, now we're questioning the whole thing, right? Throw the whole thing out. I should just live my life however I want to live it because I have no control. But here's the thing, you never had control, right? You never had control over anything. But it goes back to what I said. Us as human beings, we just innately within our wicked fleshly bodies, we don't want to do anything unless it has some type of benefit for us. We may say we do it out of the goodness of our hearts. We may say we want to just, be servant of the Most High, and that's why we do certain things or say certain things. But and you can see it in the nature of some people. If it's not about what's gonna come back to them, then they don't want to deal with it, and it shows. It shows.
Well, see, and therein is the problem, because that's why most people, they don't get stuff they want, because they only want things, or they only do things in order to benefit themselves. Whereas you go in, like, for example, so there's several different ways you can. There's several different ways you can look into spiritual law, and there is a way. So I'll give this example, right? Now, whenever you really want something big, like seriously big, something that seems impossible, something that would be miraculous, right? You have to be willing to freely give up something that you perceive to have value, something that you perceive as sustaining your life, right? And a great example of that is when Elijah went to that widow, and she was cooking the last meal they had. A few little, she's cooking the last meal they had. They had no more oil, no more flour, and she was gathering some sticks to cook the last meal, right? And he said to her, he says, before you make for yourself, go on and cook one for me and bring it to me first that I can eat. Now, when I first read that, all these years in, growing up in church, I was like, well, why would he want? That's like the most selfish thing. She's honored. She's already starving. They're in the middle of a drought, and she's about to eat the last of her food, and he's going to say, give it to me first. From my perspective back then, it looked like, man, Elijah's selfish, But then what he was actually doing was he was trying to accomplish a miracle for her, and she had to be willing to give up something that she perceived as sustaining her in order for that to happen. When you really want a miracle, you have to give up something, and by doing that, he actually activated a spiritual law for her, because by doing that, then he was able to change the reality, change the very structure of physics, so that her jar of flour never ran empty and her jar of oil never ran empty until the drought was over. And that was a supernatural thing. It happened supernaturally because she was willing to give up something that she perceived as sustaining her. Had she not done that, had she said, no, this is the last food we're going to have, then we're going to go die, then she would have ate one more meal and gone and died. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But because she was willing to give up something she thought was sustaining her, the Most High was able to, basically what it is, there's two kingdoms, right? The earth is a cursed kingdom, right? It's cursed because Adam was given authority over it. And when Adam sinned, his sin affected everyone else and everything else. So the kingdom of this earth is cursed right now. And so what that means is supernatural things can't just happen on their own, right? And you've got to strive and work and do all this stuff in order to provide for yourself, right? But in God's kingdom, it's not like that. If you look at you look back in the Torah and stuff, it says in the Torah and in Joshua, it says you're gonna come to wells you didn't dig and fields you didn't plant, and you're gonna have all this stuff. And I'm gonna give you all this stuff, and you won't have to work for it, right? Now, when the earth was cursed, God says, he says, cursed is the earth for your sake. By the sweat of your brow, you're going to eat bread, right? So he's got to go till the fields and work hard in order to survive. But whenever you shift kingdoms, because the kingdom of heaven, right, is where everything's provided. Essentially what we're trying to do is get back to how Adam had it in the Garden of Eden. Because before he sinned, they never had to do anything. All they had to do was enjoy the garden and eat from it. It was all provided for them. They didn't have to, they didn't have to work hard and get sweaty but after the curse, then it became that way as long as you're in the earth curse system. But whenever you believe God, whenever you believe the Most High, and you're willing to give up something that you perceive as sustaining you, then he is able to supernaturally affect the world around you, I don't know exactly how to put it. It's hard to come up with the right words, but yeah, essentially, whatever you're willing to give up can be multiplied back to you even more. It's like when Messiah says, I believe it's in Luke, where he says, give to anyone that asks of you, and don't withhold. I'm gonna find that real fast. Let me find it, because I want to read it precisely.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. It's Luke 6:38. It says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over shall men give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." Right? So he's basically saying, if you're doing something for personal gain, purely for personal gain, now there's nothing wrong with gaining from something. There's nothing wrong with providing a service and getting paid for it, right? But if you're doing something purely for personal gain, not for any other reason,
right,
then whatever you gain from that, that's all you're going to get. But if you're doing something that's selfless, if you do something that actually would seem to be a loss to you, right? If you're doing something that doesn't gain anything for you at all, but it actually would seemingly accrue a loss, you actually receive back even more by doing that. It allows the kingdom it allows you to transfer kingdoms, to change which kingdom you're in. So by doing that, you move yourself from the earth-cursed kingdom and earth-cursed system into the kingdom of heaven, where supernatural things can occur. Because it's basically, earth is like, it's like, we'll just use the analogy of heaven and hell, right? So you got hell, which is like the worst place you could ever possibly imagine, and then you got heaven, that's like the best place ever that you could possibly imagine. And earth is right in the middle of it, right? Earth is right in the middle of it, and they overlap each other, right? But we choose by what we do, what we think, and what we say, which kingdom we're living in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you can transfer from one to the other by, sinning, or by doing something righteous. It transfers which kingdom you're living under at that moment. Mm-hmm. And what you've got to do is, when you seek first the kingdom of heaven and his righteousness, then that's when you no longer enter into the kingdom of hell, let's call it, I guess, for lack of a better term. The kingdom of darkness, that would be a better way to put it. Mm. So, but then if you sin, or you do something that's unrighteous, or you just, because it's actually, if you know something's righteous and then you don't do it, it's, it's just like doing something unrighteous. You know what I'm saying? So by not doing something that's righteous, or by doing something that's unrighteous, you put yourself back into the cursed system, and then you have to deal with the curses.
Right. That sounds like my brother Elvin Israel.
Yeah.
He probably could expound on that a little bit. Hold on one second.
And speaking of how we don't, not everyone always agrees on stuff. I actually do believe we have free will, but we don't have to make that an issue between us.
Oh, yeah. And we can.
Everyone's gonna have differences of opinion. I actually do believe we have free will, and I did appreciate your the video you did on that. Very interesting. You made some great points. And it's always great to always great to see an opposing view, even if you don't end up agreeing. It's great to see that. It's just yeah.
My thing with free will is like it just depends on the person's understanding of what free will is.
Well, yeah, that too.
If your understanding of free will is free choice, then of course you're gonna think that you have free will. Because you can choose to do whatever you like in this world, right? I can choose to go to the store. I can choose to stay home. I can choose while I'm at the store to buy a certain item or a different type of item. All of those things. I can choose to date a certain person, marry a certain person, go to a specific body or a church, or to choose to study individually. All of these things are choices that I'm given in my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But from what I have read in the scriptures, we don't have the ability to determine or control where we go when we pass away. Now, only because, and it's subtle, it's through back channels. And if you've seen my video, you know what I'm talking about.
It's been a while since I watched it.
Yeah. Scripture said, and it's because of these fruit scriptures. Scripture says that we were given to the Messiah. We know that the Messiah is the mediator between us and the Father. We have to go through the Messiah to get to the Father.
Yeah, but then we were given to him, and whoever wasn't given to him is not going to understand his works.
Right, but also here's the caveat, not the caveat, but here's the more deeper understanding as to why. Right, we were given to the Messiah. Those people who were meant for salvation were given to the Messiah. We are his. He acknowledges that we were given to him by the Father, and we know we have to go through the Messiah to get to the Father. However, the people who were seeking out the Messiah to get to him, to get to the Father, were only done so by the Father drawing them to the Messiah to begin with. So even within that cycle of salvation, whether you go through the Messiah to get to the Father, or you were given to the Messiah by the Father, the Father determined who you were, or who those people were, those individuals were, that's going to receive that route to get to the Father, right? The scripture in Isaiah says that the Most High is the potter, and we are the clay formed in his hand, right? So he formed us. So he can form us for whatever purpose he wants. He can form us for salvation, or destruction, or anywhere in between, right? I give you an example. Moses in the Old Testament, right? It says that the Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart. I said Moses, I'm in Pharaoh in the Old Testament. It says that the Most High hardens Pharaoh's heart, but why would the Most High himself harden the heart of the Pharaoh who had his people in bondage? But when you read the entire book of Exodus, and you realize he did that so that he could do a miracle and display his power and his might, so that the Israelites that came out of Egypt could look to him and be like, okay, this is who our Elohim is. We need to listen to him. He's mighty. He's magical. We need to praise. We need to worship him. He did that so that could happen. Because if Moses came to Egypt, and on the very first try, on the very first question, if he walked up to Moses, walked up to Pharaoh like, "What's up, bro? Hey, you know, all these people you got, they're slaves. Look, Most High sent me, said, come get them. I'm gonna need you to let my people go."
And he says,
Pharaoh
"Oh yeah, sure.
said, okay, cool, take them." And then they left. There would be nothing for the people to be like, "Oh man, like the Most High is
so powerful."
If anything, they would have looked to Moses like, "Yo, you the man. Yo, you the one who we need to rock with." That wasn't the case, right? So everything happens for a reason, right? The Most High doesn't do anything for a reason, and unfortunately, some people whom the Most High has created throughout time,
made them as vessels for destruction.
For destruction. Now they might have had a purpose. Like,
well, see, it's exactly. They all have a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. I think that people will get to choose. I don't know. That is a really deep topic.
No, when I'm wet, it's hard to put on my clothes.
It's backwards anyway. Look at this. Look at that. What that's right there? That's a tag. Go flip your shirt around. Now, boy, I walk around naked all the time. I gotta look back at the video playback to see if it wasn't naked when he walked up, because all he had on was a shirt. Yeah,
no, it was not my kids.
Kids, man, tell them who told us to be fruitful and multiply. Oh yeah, the Most High. Okay, yeah, never mind. Yeah, but yeah, like you can be created to do good works, great works, but still be destined for destruction. Just because the works that you do during your life, that might have been your purpose, but that doesn't mean that he still created you to.
Well, see, it's like, I think I want to say it's in Psalms. Could be Kings though. I don't know. Anyways, basically all are God's servants, right? All men are Father Yah's servants. Whether they choose to be, whether they're willingly a servant of his.
What am I doing right now?
It's like everyone is going to be his servant, whether it's willingly or unwillingly, right? Because he makes everything go. Everything works out for good of those that love him. So, someone could be living wicked and all this stuff, but they may do something that's going to affect your life in a positive way. You know what I'm saying? Just like with Pharaoh. Now, when the Most High hardened Pharaoh's heart. Oh, thank you. Oh, you already ate that. So now that was, the word there for hardened his heart actually means to strengthen, so basically, like, it was already in Pharaoh's heart not to let them go. He only acquiesced because of all the terrible things that happened, but he didn't really want to let them go. It wasn't his choice, right, to let them go. And so God strengthened what was already in his heart. It was already in his heart to defy the word of the Most High, right? So he strengthened what was already there. And if he had wanted to serve the Most High, right? If he had said, "Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that is," then there wouldn't have been anything for the Most High to strengthen there to make him do that. But then what would have happened is, just like you said, people probably would have started worshiping Moses instead of, and been like, "Man, you're awesome," and then they would have idolized Moses instead. So, it all happens for a purpose, and I do believe we get to choose what our purpose is. But I mean, it's and maybe we disagree on that. I don't know. I believe we get to choose what our purpose is, even without knowing it, right? Whether our purpose is going to be to cause something to happen that's going to be for the good of other people and ultimately get us destroyed, or if it's going to be something that is going to lead us to salvation.
I believe that in terms of purpose, we don't choose our purpose. What happens is we become aware of what that purpose is because it was already established. Mm-hmm. So like for you, for example, you want to help people. Like that is your purpose. That is your goal in life, is to help other people, whether it be any way you can, because you'd give somebody the shirt off your back if you could, right? That is your purpose. And you know that is your purpose. But that has always been your purpose. You had just been recently made, well, not recently, but however many years ago that you've become aware of it, that was your purpose. Mm-hmm. Now, will that purpose ultimately lead you to destruction or to salvation? Nobody knows. Only the Father knows that. But you have been made aware of your purpose. Like for me, right? When I asked you earlier about your life scripture, the scriptures that govern the way the way you move in this world, how you conduct yourself, right? Mm-hmm. An old mentor of mine, many years back, asked me this question. It's like, hey, what's your life scripture? What in the Bible shows you, how you live, and I didn't have one at the time.
Yeah.
While I was deployed, and I was in Qatar, and I was in my dorm at the time, and I was just reading scriptures, just daily reading, and I came across it, and it made so much sense, right? And it was 1 Corinthians 13, 1 and 2, right? Now, for those who know me on the music tip, you know me as Prophet, or recently with the name change, Silent Prophet. I didn't give myself that name. Somebody else gave me that name when I first started doing music, and it just stuck. But those people who know me on a personal level know that a lot of supernatural stuff has happened in my life. Okay, a lot of supernatural stuff. I done had all kind of dreams, visions, spiritual encounters, demonic attacks, all of this stuff, right? So I know that there's a spiritual realm outside of this earthly realm that we deal with. And so prophet, the term prophet itself has so much significance to me in my life. And when I read this verse, it hit me, because I realized I have to conduct myself in a certain way with all things that I do in order for it to be beneficial for the Father, for the kingdom, right?
Yeah,
so 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1 and 2 is, though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, and have not, in King James Version says charity, but other versions say love, right? Love, charity. I am become as a sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And I think in other versions it's like resounding gong or something like that.
Clanging gong or clanging.
Verse 2, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could, hold on, this.
That was me. I muted my mic because the kid's crying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
And though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity or love, I am nothing. So for me, if you know me, I am big on knowledge. I am big on understanding, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Learning scripture, learning what the Bible says. My foundation is the scriptures, right? First and foremost. But if I'm only reading to get more knowledge,
then it's
right?
useless. It's useless. It's got to be for because of love.
Also, there's a lot of people that are big on faith. They're huge on faith. They got faith that I can do anything that they want to do, but they don't read the Bible. Or if they do, they read it minusculely, right? But if you got faith that can move mountains, you don't have love, again, you don't have nothing.
So good, yeah.
From reading this scripture, my first thought was like, yo, love has to be at the center of everything that I do. My love specifically for the Father, my love specifically for the Most High has to be at the center of everything that I do. So whether I'm doing music ministry, whether I'm doing Bible studies, scripture readings, the presentations that's on my YouTube channel, conversation with other brothers and sisters, or just how I conduct myself at work, in commute back and to and fro, regardless of what I'm doing or what I'm saying, it has to be grounded in love. If it's not, then it don't matter.
Yeah, right? Yeah, then it does you no good anyway.
Exactly. So that's where I found my, my purpose is to love, to genuinely love. I love you. I love the Most High. And thus, once I love, like you said, like the scripture says, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and then everything else will be added unto you, right? Well, for me, when I ground myself in love, and I everything that I do comes from the love that I have for the Father, the knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding,
it all comes to you.
The faith, all of it comes together, and everything is accomplished. And I get all of that because I'm big on knowledge.
Yeah.
What I'm saying? I'm big on knowledge. Yeah. So I get all of that, but if I don't make that my focus, if I make love my focus, then all of it happens anyway. So when my back, but that was 2016. That was 2016 when I found out what my purpose was. But that was always my purpose. I had just been aware of it. But now that I know that it is my purpose, now that I knew that it was my purpose, what am I going to do with it? Am I going to continue to live according to what I know my purpose is? Whether or not that's going to lead me to the kingdom or not, I don't know. I don't know if I'm one of them 144K or the other number that no man can number. I don't know. I would hope so. But if not, it's still all praises. Still all praises to the Most High. He created me.
Ultimately, regardless,
Exactly.
We're always, whether we lived a completely wicked, unrighteous life, or whether when we go when we see him, he says, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." Regardless, either way, our life is going to give him glory. Either way, it's going to give him glory.
Whether we want to do it out of our own mouths or not, you don't have a choice. Like my cousin, he asked me, because I was talking about free will. He asked me, he said, so somebody who was wicked their whole life, whole life can get into the kingdom, and then somebody who was righteous their whole life cannot make it into the kingdom? And it didn't, that what you call it? Not a conundrum. I don't know the word I'm thinking of. Paradigm. That paradigm just did not register. And I understood why it didn't, because it took me a long time to wrap my head around predestination. Like, it took a long time for my head to wrap around predestination. But we're looking at it from a lens of the clay.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, we're the clay. He's the potter. He created us for whatever reason he created us. So if he created us to be with him, then we're going to be with him. If he created us to be down there, then we're going to be down there. Like, if you created, like you mentioned, using wood, right? If you took wood, you created a chair, and you put it together, you polished it, you stained it, you did whatever you needed to do, and it's this beautiful work of art, this beautiful chair. It's useful, it's strong, it's sturdy, you can sit down in it, you can pass it down to generation to generation to generation. If after you create that chair, if you decide to take that chair and throw it in the trash, or to burn it, or to break it, or to just give it away, who is someone else to come along to tell you that what you did with your creation wrong? It's not. And we do that with the Most High. We tell him what's right and what's wrong. I remember when I the first time I ever read the story when the Most High told Moses to have everybody, when they came into the land, to kill all the ites, right? Kill everybody. He said men, women, and children. He said everybody. That did not sit right with me in my mind at the time. I lacked understanding. But I'm like, yo, this ain't the God I serve.
Right.
He just told them to go in and kill everybody, women and children. And women and children were innocent in my understanding at the time, so it didn't sit right with me, especially babies.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why he would tell the Israelites to go and to kill everybody. It wasn't until later that I realized that it was because of a purpose, for the preservation of Israel, so that they wouldn't go whoring after other gods. Because Israel was the chosen. They were a small group of people out of the whole world that the Most High had chosen to keep safe and to protect.
Well, also all the Canaanites were mixing seed and Nephilim hybrids and stuff, so they weren't even actually human. They weren't actually human. If they had left, which actually they did a couple times, which is, I think, why there's still certain issues that wouldn't be today if they had obeyed. But that's why he said to even kill the babies, because I mean, like you would think, oh, this innocent little baby, why would I? But if it's not human, then what's it going to do? It's going to propagate this hybrid seed throughout the generations. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And
he was trying to get rid of that because the Messiah had to come through a perfect bloodline, right? And so what was one of the first things that the fallen angels even did was they started tainting the bloodline. They tainted the bloodline.
Right out the gate.
Before the flood even, which is actually
great sin, not regular sin. They called it the great sin.
Yeah. Simjaza and all his cohorts and stuff.
Yeah.
They gone and tried to taint the bloodline, because if they had tainted the bloodline of all mankind, then the Messiah couldn't have been born. So actually, the flood was actually an act of mercy.
Yep, mercy.
Because he actually waited until the last pure bloodline was even alive. waited until the last pure bloodline was even alive that he could preserve. It was actually an act of mercy, because had he not, if he hadn't killed them all off, flooded the whole world, then there wouldn't be any humans left there, and there couldn't have been a Messiah, and we'd all be doomed, you know. And then what happened after that? They get off the ark, and they go and all their stuff, and they go down to Egypt. And what happens is the enemy starts positioning all his, if you look at it like a chessboard, is positioning all his pieces, his half human, mixed hybrids through the land in an effort to get them to taint the bloodline again, because it was always about preventing the Messiah from being born. That's why all the time they're killing all the male children, right? That's why all the time. That's why all the time it was killing all the male children, or trying to wipe out the this bloodline or that bloodline or whatever, because the Messiah had to come from a pure bloodline. Otherwise he couldn't, because he had. Anyways, that's another topic too. Hey, bro, I will be right back. Just give me just a second.
Okay, no problem. No worries.
You can go and talk about something if you want to, and maybe I'll,
Yeah, where we at right now? Let's see. How long do we give you the time? I think we've been at this for I think we started at 2:30. It's about to be 6. So we've been at this for a minute, man. I appreciate this discussion. Pretty much, I'm gonna see if we can do this every Shabbat. If probably not this long every Shabbat, but have some kind of discussion, some kind of dialogue. If somebody would like to join us, originally I wanted it to be like a panel setup, whereas me, Joel, and a couple other people, and we all just have this big discussion, because it's better when you get more people in, more minds, iron sharpening iron, and all of those types of things. But yeah, I'm really up for this. This is a really good idea. Not really so much a podcast, because there's so many podcasts, and I'm not trying to stay in my lane. I ain't trying to jump in the podcast lane. I'm not saying a podcast is a bad idea, because there's some brothers and sisters that got podcasts. Shout out to Yah's Word on the Street podcast, for example. My sis is the Karya, she's doing a thing. But it's just, I'm already doing so much. I don't want to dilute what is already going on with trying to dwell in the other types of things that people are already doing. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to get a good set apart podcast, dope, check out Yah's Word on the Street podcast. They doing their thing. So I'm gonna stay in my little lane over here, and every Shabbat, maybe every Shabbat, we can have some discussions, have different folks on and stuff like that. But yeah, Joel, I was saying while you was going, brother, was we've been on for a good little minute. We probably do this every week, maybe not this long, or maybe as long, or even longer each week. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we covered a lot. Covered a lot of information. We had a really good discussion. I'm sure everybody who watches it on the playback is gonna have a lot of gems that they probably have to watch this and take notes in pieces. You feel me? It was a lot of gems. There's a lot of gems.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we can wrap this one up, and then focus on next week. I think next week we should really hit on the biblical aspect of manifestations. Because matter of fact, everybody, we were talking about manifestation and spiritual law and all of these things. If you can, go on Amazon and get this book called The Tongue, A Creative Force. I know is it backwards for you, Joe, to see it?
Oh no, I can see it. Yeah, okay. That's right.
So it's called The Tongue, A Creative Force, by the author is called Charles Capps. It's not a big book. It's a quick read. I'm telling you, it will change your life if you understand spiritual law, and it'll begin to change how you interact with everything, your mindset, your actions, your speech. Everything will change if you understand this. You're going to see things start to come to pass. You're going to see yourself start to manifest and bring things to pass based on your word. And obviously it's not your word, it's your word through the power that was given to you through the Most High. Like I said earlier, we are also Elohim. But telling you, I think we should talk about that definitely next week.
Yeah. That'd be great. Another great book that I would also recommend. It's along a lot of the same lines as that book you just mentioned, but this one here, I don't know if it's if you can see it. Oh, it's got the hard to see with the background, I guess.
I had the same problem with the background, man.
It's yeah. And maybe someone on the split second that it shows up can there we go. Oh.
Yeah, just
anyways, it's called
and then message it to me, and
I'll
put it in the description of the YouTube video below so everybody can be able to get it.
Yeah. It's Hung by the Tongue by Francis P. Martin. Great book, super easy read. The chapters are like literally 2 pages each. So yeah, really, really good, but very profound.
Bet. Well, brother, we started this around like 2:30. I think we started around 2:30. It's 6.
It's almost 6.
Yeah, so that's what we've been at it about 3.5. 3.5. I think that's more than enough time for the folks at home, the family at home. Whether you enjoying Shabbat or not, whether you keep Shabbat on this day or not. Once this video renders, I upload it. You check it out. Anything you want to share with everybody before we go, bro?
I don't know, just that, you the main focus of your life needs to be the Most High. It needs to be seeking His kingdom, His righteousness, and it's going back to my 2 verses, but challenge yourself to listen to opposing views. Challenge yourself to challenge yourself to listen to opposing views or something that you have not even heard of before. But always filter it through Scripture. Don't just take anything at face value, but don't reject hearing it either. Another great verse that I kind of try to live by is Hosea. It says, how does it go? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And because you've rejected knowledge, I will also reject your seed, your offspring. So, you don't want to ever reject information just without examining it, and hearing the full matter. But always put the Most High first. That would be the main thing I could say to anyone about anything.
Yeah.
So,
all praises.
Yeah, and anything you want to leave people with?
The same, you know what I'm saying? If you didn't get anything out of this whole discussion, just remember that if you do everything in love for the Most High, seek first the kingdom of heaven, everything else in your life, everything you're trying to accomplish, everything you're trying to do, all the situations you're trying to get out of, all of that stuff is going to happen. But you got to keep Him first. Keep Him first.
Nope.
So, with that being said, I hope you guys got something out of this conversation. We're going to keep doing these. We're going to keep running them back. I don't know what your schedule's like next week, Joel, in terms of the Shabbat, but definitely if you're available, I'd love to have you back on. I appreciate you this week.
It'd be great, man. It'd be nice to do this, you know, a couple times a month or even every week.
Yeah, this brother right here, this is the one I go to when I have biblical questions. You feel me? I pride myself on being a scholar, but you know, everybody has their limitations. Everybody got their sweet spots, their specialties and stuff like that. But when I run into hiccups, I'll be like, yo, Joel, what you read the scripture, tell me what you think. Or hey, you ever heard about this? You know, this is my brother right here. We go back. So with that being said, I hope y'all have a great day or great Shabbat if you are observing the Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom, family. And be safe, man. Until next time.
Bye, man. Love you, bro.
All right, brother. Love you too. Much ahab. Much ahab.